please welcome the CEO and co-founder of Selina, Rafael Museri, in conversation with Skift President Carolyn Kremins.
Hi, Rafi. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, Carolyn. How are you?
Good, good, good. So you're 5 years into the launch of Selina with already 100 plus properties in 20 countries, right? So for those of you who are unfamiliar, I would think that it would be appropriately characterized to say that Selina is a design-forward, nomadic lifestyle brand that targets digital nomads. So I thought I would show a quick clip of how you present Selina to the world.
So, hello.
All right. So, Rafi, that just woke, I think, everyone up in our audience. How do you describe your customer? And do you think that the profile of the customer will change post-pandemic?
Look, I think that the customers, first of all, from an average age perspective, it's about 30 to 32. So Gen Y, Gen Z, a little bit of X, like they feel comfortable, but I think that the average age of 30 to 32 is what really dominated. I believe that what's going to change most is the average stay. They're going to stay longer, and definitely the amount of remote workers and digital nomads, which in our opinion, it's going to have multiple X of what it used to be. The one more things to say about our customers, many of them are domestic travelers. So Selina create the roadmap in every country based on the needs of the local community. So our roadmap is signed off by the local experience board of Selina in every country. We are less focused on where the tourists coming to every country. We are focusing on what the local community want to see. We know today, and we can prove after 5 or 6 years, that if the local community is excited, the international tourists that will come to that destinations are going to be very excited, because they kind of less want to feel tourists anymore. They want to hang out where the local community hang out. So that's one thing. And another important thing to say about our target audience is very, very important for us to go to those spots that just the local community know and they're excited about. That's allowed the tourists that come into the country to discover places that they will never discover without this input of the local community. And that's made kind of the variety interesting. So
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, because everyone wants to know, like, sort of that insider information. So if you're hanging out with the locals and you kind of built that into the whole sort of programming in terms of what you offer. So we, Rafi, actually interviewed you on our stage in Europe 2 years ago. And what you said then about companies and remote work resonates with what we've seen over this past year.
I truly believe that 10 years from now, every company around the world will have to allow their employees to work 3 to 4 to 5 to 2 months remotely. I think that the people moving more towards urban spaces, but they need the remote experience. They need to go off the grid. They need to socialize. The offline socialized world is just a need.
So you knew back then in April of 2019 what was going to be really a movement more than a trend. But now most people have been forced to work remotely. And as we come out of this, do you think that this whole idea of nomadic living and working is at its tipping point towards greater growth? Or do you think in a couple of years it's going to be, we're going back to normal, people are going to go back to life in an office?
I think it's definitely at its highest point today than ever, but I think it's just the beginning. I think the corona just forced people to work remotely, People realize that they can close deals remotely. Companies realize that they can get things done remotely. Technology companies realize they can get the code being written remotely. There is a 100 million and billion-dollar transaction that close without people meeting each other. That means that people get used to and even falling in love being more in their families or being more close to their families or being able to travel the world without the needs to go physically into a space in order to shake hands or to close deals in the traditional way. A part of that, I think that the flexibility that companies now was forced to give to their employees make both sides kind of questioning, why should I keep 1,000 square meter of HQ that cost the company $1 million a year, while we actually can keep a smaller HQ, save a lot of money, pay even better to our teams, invest more in technologies, invest more in communication. I think that there is definitely just the beginning of what we will see. I believe that that people will combine the work, play, experience, stay, these kind of ecosystems that Selina started with. I believe that many platforms will start offering that, and I believe that we're tasting the tipping point, but it's just really the beginning.
Yeah, so Skift is one of those companies. We actually gave up our offices, and we're now a globally distributed company. But I guess the question I would ask that dovetails on what you just said, for Skift and other leaders in our audience, what kind of advice do you have as it relates to having more, corporate employees taking to this nomadic lifestyle, right? Because like you mentioned, you have coders, but beyond like the gig and independent freelancer, if this is going to continue to grow and include more corporate workers, like how do we as leaders ensure and measure overall productivity while they're working from Panama or Phuket? You mentioned work play. Is there maybe too much play? How do we manage that?
So first of all, I think that the perfect balance between remote and physical kind of an offline experience, the perfect balance, it really depends on which company. Each company with its DNA can need to decide what is the perfect kind of a hybrid solution. From my perspective, the first advice is that you definitely, companies saving a lot of money by reducing the size of the HQs. They need to take part of that saving and in adding it up into the culture budget. What I call culture budget, again, it's all those meeting up, conference, corporate events where people will continue this offline relationship. So that's one very important thing. And another things to say, marketing people, there are probably, call it 50, 60, 70% of positions in every company that can comfortably work remotely, and it's going to be the same level of professionality, but you always have the people that you really want them every day to meet, communicate, and have this kind of more of the frequent day-to-day relationship. So it depends on the company, but overall, my advice is to increase the budget of the conferences, corporate events, and meeting up, because that's what's gonna make you catching up with what you're losing, probably.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting because there will be needs to get workers together, and so Selina can certainly benefit, I think, from that. Just switching gears just for a minute, you raised an additional 60 million last year during the pandemic, so huge congratulations on that. And while we've seen so many of the other hospitality brands retrench, Selina strategically acquired Remote Year.
Yeah.
Over.
So.
And I just want to mention, he highlighted what a strong match it is, that Selina has the real estate, that it needed to be cost effective, and that Remote Year has the digital nomads to drive the growth. So my question is was that a strategic move that came as a result of the pandemic? Would you have ever looked at it before the pandemic? And what's the plans for integrating those two brands?
So first of all, yeah, we know Remotier for many years. It's a great company, great brand. And Selina was one of the providers of spaces to Remotier. As a Remotier is a kind of an asset line, kind of a marketplace. So they connecting between demand and supply. We were kind of delivering supply in the past. So we love Remotier. We watch Remotier for a long time. And obviously the pandemic, we believe that the amount of remote workers, digital nomads in 10x. People arguing if there's 100 million new remote workers now, or 150 million, or 200 million, that's $300 billion of additional spend on that sector. Probably one of the biggest movements we're going to experience. So yeah, Remotier is the coolest brand, which, by the way, they're not going to use Selina inventory. They're going to use whatever inventory Remotier. It's an independent company. They're gonna manage. They're going to choose the inventory based on the demand of the appetite of their guest. So Selina we're going to be there. We're going to help, but it's not 100. It's not have to be our. By the way, I think that the first 5 programs that we sold in Remotier, I think maybe 10% of them is actually executed in Selina's, which is 100% fine with us. There is a lot of appetite for Southeast Asia, and Selina just entering now Southeast Asia. So,
right.
So that's fine. But
yeah, I'm surprised that Remotier is not going to be using the Selinas to put up all of the travelers.
We believe that the best way to, again, I think that to keep companies independent and to create a real tension between, like, if Selina's product going to be perfect from a location perspective to what the appetite of the remote workers in from LA or from New York or from Europe, perfect. If not, yeah, we're going to know that there is a lot of appetite for Thailand. So Selina going to try to speed up and open beautiful spaces for them in Thailand. But it's not for sure that, and again, Morocco now become very popular. So Selina now start opening locations in Morocco. And so we're going to try to catch up as fast as we can, condition for our experience to stay consistent, but it really depends.
Yeah, I want to switch gears a little bit and pick up on the idea of connection. And the reality is that loneliness and depression over the past year has been on the rise. And so as we come out of this whole isolation, so many are craving real connection. So this whole promise that you offer of freedom and to be part of a tribe is appealing. But you mentioned something when we were talking earlier that I never heard another hospitality CEO say. And that is that you measure success based on the number of friendships formed by staying at Selina. So the question is how are you tapping into this emotional deficit, and how does Selina actually cultivate that kind of community and build those friendships?
So yeah, we wake up in the morning when you have the line of the the KPI that the CEOs or head of countries looking at. We look at the percentage of friendships that took place yesterday. At the end of the day, I will try to explain a bit holistic, but overall, it's 47% of Gen Z and Y either lonely or depressed, or there is an issue there, right? The old generations, they're in 20%. They're in a much better place from that perspective. So we believe in one very simple thing. The best commercial strategy in the world and the best way to reduce CAC is to be the best place to socialize. So that's why Selina is a content and programming driven brand that deliver those experiences that will increase the chance of social experience to take place. That's the way we look at it. Now, as a result of that, revenue will come, occupancy will come, and high ADR will come. We're not targeting the ADR as a KPI. We're not targeting the occupancy as it. We are targeting the programming and the quality of the content in order to create this experience. That's number one. Number two, yeah, when 64% of Selina guests globally make a friend while they stay with Selina in the last month, that's huge.
Yeah,
we're truly playing an important role in getting their social experience better. And this is, for me, it's what it's all about.
So quick question then on that, just to follow up. Does friendship measurement have a place in the business world? Like, is there a corporate travel angle here?
It has to be. People want to meet friends. People want to meet friends. People meeting friends to do business with. People meeting friends to have a relationship with. People, it's all about the combination of business leisure, friendship, social. I think that it's not going to be anymore. I'm going for business now. I'm disconnected from my social life. The dream is to go and make business, but at the same time to get to know an interesting person, have a conversation, keep traveling with, or meeting in Tulum next year is the best, right?
Listen, it would be the best for all of us, and especially now that we're a globally distributed company. I think I can think of how companies like ours will use Selina, for example, for retreats and things like that. Rafi, I know we went through this conversation really quickly, and I have so many other things I want to ask you, but unfortunately we've run out of time. But I thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing all the growth that's in your pipeline coming to fruition.
Thank you. It's my pleasure always. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rafi. Take care.